Do press releases help SEO, and are press releases even worth it anymore? Hi everybody, I'm John Lincoln with Ignite Visibility. I do hundreds of press releases a year, and today I'm going to tell you specifically, do press releases actually help your search engine optimization, and how should you really be thinking about them in the overall marketing landscape? Let's go ahead and dive into it. Before you get started, make sure to click the notification bell and make sure to subscribe so that you can get more videos like this in the future. Okay, so first thing, do press releases actually help your search engine optimization? The question is yes, but they don't really help the way that you probably think that they do and the way that you probably used to think about press releases. So in the past, people would think about press releases as a direct linking strategy, meaning if you did a press release and the press release got picked up by 100 websites, you would get 100 links back to your website, and that would help you rank better in Google because you would put links inside of the press release to the exact page that you want to rank. Now, you can still do that, and there's nothing wrong with that, but now most of these links are no followed, and so that means that they actually don't pass PageRank from one page to another page. But if you put a link inside of a press release to a service page and you want somebody to click on that and then go check out that service, that's totally fine, but they're not really around for a linking strategy anymore. So that's really important. Now, there are ways that they can help links, and I'm gonna get into that in a little bit, but as a direct linking strategy, it's not really the right way to think about it. Now, what it is good for is awareness, right? So press releases get out in front of tons of different websites, and I'm gonna go over how to promote them even more in a little bit and the specific strategy for that, but they definitely help for awareness. So if you've got a story coming out about your company, if you've got an industry study that you've created, if you've got an award, or if you just have some business news, you should definitely be doing a press release. Were you ranked #1 in your industry, right? Did you come out with, something really cool that you want to share? A press release is a great way to get exposure for that. In addition to that, a press release can rank sometimes pretty darn well inside of search engines. And there's two different ways that you can get it to rank. Well, you can get it to rank on your own website, or you can get it to rank from one of the other many websites that pick up the press release, because in a lot of cases, those are indexed. So if it gets picked up by Yahoo News, for example, that's got really high domain authority. So if you optimize your press release for a keyword, there's a good chance that it gets picked up either on one of these larger sites or your own site. Also, depending on how you write it, a lot of times journalists, they'll just take that press release and they'll turn it into a quick article. So I was an editor at a magazine for 4.5 years, and I used to publish 10 articles a day. And one of the things I would do, I would look for press releases to come in. I'd say, okay, this is an interesting business story in San Diego. So go ahead and take this, give it to a writer. Writer turns it into an article, we publish it. We would just crank out 10 of those a day. So if your press release is almost in the format of an article, a journalist is gonna see that, and if it's an interesting story, they'll do a write-up on it real quick and just change a couple things. So that's really important. Also, when your press release gets picked up by a major media publication, that adds credibility to you. So again, if you get picked up by Yahoo, or you get picked up by one of these other large sites and the press release is actually picked up by them, a Business Insider or something like that, that brings credibility to your company, because you can now use these logos for these top news sites on your landing pages. You can say that you had been featured there, and then that brings more credibility to the users who are on your page and thinking about converting on the website. You've probably seen that before. Finally, what's really, really important, and I'm going to get into this next, the most important thing with press releases is that you have the right strategy. So now I'm going to jump into specifically how to set up your press release strategy, and then how to do your promotional strategy for your press release. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So the release, the first thing you need to think about with any good press release is really, what is the story, right? What is the story that you want the journalist to pick up and tell on their website? And what type of publication would want to pick up that story? Do you have a business story? Well, if that's the case, then in the title of the press release and in the first couple sentences, you want to hook in the journalist so they read that and they think, I need to cover that on my business publication, right? Or on my whatever type of publication that they have. The next thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you add quotes in there, because journalists, they're always looking for quotes from notable people. So if you can put a quote in from the CEO of a company or from a VP in the company or somebody who's a subject matter expert on specifically what the release is about, there's a very good chance that journalist is going to see that and they're going to just rip out that quote and they're going to use that in an article. So make sure you take the time to get in at least a couple meaningful quotes around the press release that you're doing. Also, you want to end every press release with a call to action. I see a lot of people making this mistake, but one of the things that I like to do with my own personal press release strategies and coaching with some clients is the release should be really short and snappy and super interesting. And the main goal of the release should be to get somebody to click on a button or a link so that they go to your website and read more. So think about that. If this press release is getting picked up by hundreds of different websites, right? That's 100 chances, for you to get traffic from those sites. And all those people that come in, they click on the call to action, they come to your website. That turns into 1, a ton of referring site traffic, and 2, it makes it so that your website is the most authoritative piece on the news that you're putting out there. So let's take that a step further. So one of the things you want to do is publish a longer resource page on your website first, okay? You come out with a story, you publish this longer resource page on your website first. Maybe it's 1,000 words that covers the whole thing, right? It's got multimedia in it, it's got images, it's got the full story, anything that a journalist would want to get, right? And then the press release really just becomes kind of an advertisement that's short, sweet, super snappy, and exciting for somebody to read and then come in, click, come to this page where you've got a ton of resources. They can take all this, they can put it on their websites, but they're always going to be referencing back to your website. Now, what did we just do there? We just made it so that we created something of a ton of value and are probably going to inadvertently get a bunch of links as a result of these journalists taking this stuff, putting on their site, wanting to write more, and they're going to be returning to this page often as well, which is also great. So let's talk about the promotion side a little bit. So when you're doing promotion for a press release, you should definitely use a distribution service. There's a whole bunch of them out there. If you want to distribute a press release, generally the more you pay for the distribution service, the better off it's going to be. I'm not going to go through all of them right now, but I'll flash a couple of my top ones on the screen right here just so you can take a look at it. And then in addition to that, you really need to take the time to email journalists and even call them, right? If you have a relationship with them. So again, back when I was at the news publication, and I still am a writer for a lot of places now, like Search Engine Land and Marketing Land and Business to Community and stuff like that. So technically I am a journalist. But what people would do to me is they would email me and then they would call me and then they would email me and then they would call me. And then over time, I developed a relationship with these people. Now that's the exact same thing for me now when I write for these other places. If I have a story or something that I want to write, I'm working with the editors over there, right? So you can't just send out the release. The release is great and maybe you'll get picked up for some big ones there. For example, when I came out with SEO the movie, we sent out a press release on it, didn't do all that much outreach, but it was picked up by all these different movie sites, right? Because it was a new film that went out inside of the press release distribution area for the film community, right? So what you want to do is you want to email them, 3 or 4 times consistently, pick up the phone, give them a call, and then start building a relationship within your industry with these journalists because they want to cover the top people and they appreciate a good story when it comes in. That's part of their job. As busy as they are, they have to keep putting out the news. And then another thing that I think a lot of people miss is now social media is huge for journalists. It's very, very big. In fact, I would challenge you to say, which one isn't on Twitter, right? Which one isn't on LinkedIn? So if you can find the right platform for them where they aren't going to be bothered by you if you reach out to them, it's a great idea to tag them on social media so that they can see the story there. In fact, with some of our recent industry studies, I've been having journalists on Twitter who have seen it and then direct message me because they want to cover the story and they saw it on Twitter, not through the press release, but they saw the press release that I put out on Twitter and because they were following me. So you see how it's kind of all full circle. Now, a couple other bonus things for you. So try to do 1 press release a month, okay, at a minimum. Next thing, you want to measure pickups and mentions. So the more pickups you get from the press release service and mentions, the better. You want to do unlinked mention outreach. So if somebody mentions you, you want to ask them to link to you. And then finally, you want to check all your referring site traffic, and that's how you're going to gauge the effectiveness. That's it for press releases and SEO. See you next time. Bye.